Big 12 preview here, Christian. Big 12. Houston owns the Big 12. People said when they were coming over from the AAC, like, good luck. It's the Big 12. It's a gauntlet. And here they are, just 19-1. They've won 10 in a row in the Big 12 play, 27-4 overall. Texas Tech, who I think you're high on. I think I saw you tweeting about them. 15-5 in conference play, won 3 in a row. And how about BYU? I mean, we know they absolutely embarrassed Kansas, and they've won 8 in a row. They're 14-6 in conference. Arizona, 14-6, but Caleb Love is, just a guy that I will not trust to the day I die. I know he owns me forever for the moment against Mark Williams at the top of the key in the Final Four. Hats off to him, but he also was the reason UNC lost in the championship the game after that. So that's the Caleb Love experience in a nutshell. What do you see in day one of the Big 12 tournament? I know it's hard to see. I don't know why the Big 12 graphic is like black and white, but that's their official graphic.
I can see it. Before I answer that question, let's talk about Caleb Love, because there's people on Twitter who think I just hate him to hate him, and I'll only talk about him when he's bad. But it's like, it truly boggles my mind that with 15 assistant coaches on the bench of Arizona, that no one says, hey, we got a lot of good players on this team. He has been an inefficient shooter time and time again. The sample size is so large, and especially against good teams. 0 for 7 in a loss at Kansas State from deep. 1 for 8 in a loss to Houston from deep. 1 for 7 in a win, congrats, at Baylor. 2 for 10 at Iowa State from deep. 0 for 5 at Texas Tech. 1 for 7 in a loss to UCLA. 1 for 9 in the loss to Duke. 0 for 6 at Wisconsin. I can go on and on. And I'm a body language PhD as someone who didn't play basketball at a high level, but still plays basketball and understands it at a high level. You can understand relationships between players. And when Caleb Love does something stupid, I see KJ Lewis and Jaden Bradley say, I'm not passing you the ball right now because you just pissed me off by the shot you just took. And guess what? Jaden Bradley's a really good player, and KJ Lewis is a really good player. Carter Bryant's an NBA guy. Henry Visar is one of the best bigs in the country. Trey Townsend carried a team in March Madness last year. They've got so many good players, and it just drives me crazy that I can't get behind them or ever trust them because they have a point guard that is selfish. I've heard stories of who he is as a person, some things he's done off the court, and I'm not talking about the RJ Davis thing. I'm talking about something else. I just am not a fan of him. I'm not a fan of his approach to the game, and I can never trust a team that has him running the show because too many times, except for the Carolina end of the season, and this is his 5th college season, he had a great month. And I'm not going to keep giving him a pass for it. He is not a Big 12 first-team all-performer. He is not a winning basketball player. He's talented. And guess what? If the reins were reeled in a bit, he could be fantastic. But they never have. No one's gone through to him. He's never reflected. He's selfish. That's my Caleb Love rant.
Look, it's funny you say that because we tend to agree here. And obviously, I'm a little biased in my reasoning because of the Final Four. But it's Duke fans and real level-headed UNC fans would agree that it's very funny that this guy has the biggest moment in the history of the Duke-UNC rivalry because there's a ton of UNC fans that don't like him either because, yes, thank you for the run, but UNC, the biggest choke in NCAA championship game history, the largest comeback win was Kansas. They were up 15 or 16 at half. Caleb Love shot his 5 of 20 or whatever it was. Kansas wins the national championship because of it. And it's very funny that this guy, with his struggles, it's like he had the biggest shot in the Duke-UNC rivalry in the Final Four. He was the Pac-12 Player of the Year, and he's going to average 17 points per game or 16 points per game in his college career. But it's just those stats just don't matter because it's such high volume. I mean, he's shooting 37% from the field this year as a fifth-year senior, 32 from 3, and he's just jacking. And that's why I can't come to like Arizona in anything. That's why when Duke played at Arizona this year, I was so confident in Duke beating Arizona because of what he brings to the table dynamically. When that first shot's off, he's mentally checks out. It's been that way since his first year. Or year 5 is the same way. I'm trying to see because again, this graphic is killing me. I mean, they play Thursday, March 13th, their first game. They play the winner of Kansas, who would play Utah or UCF. Is there any team here that you see, and here, I'll do this. I'm going to put on their graphic here for DraftKings Big 12 Conference Tournament winner. you see any value here, or do you want to see the tournament again and then see the value?
No, we can flip back and forth. I have the bracket on my side. I think there's two really good future bets that I'm eyeing in this one, actually. Want to go back to the bracket?
Yeah. Let's go back.
So the Big 12 was supposed to be better this year, right? There's still a lot of teams with the high ceiling, but like Cincinnati was supposed to be a tournament team, and Kansas State was supposed to be a tournament team. Those are the two that have really flopped. West Virginia's been better than expected. Baylor's been worse than expected. Kansas has been worse than expected. BYU has been better. Texas Tech's been better. Although low-key, Texas Tech was in my preseason Final Four. Love Texas Tech. Love Houston. And then my clear other team in that top three is Iowa State. I think Iowa State at plus 700 is absolutely the best bet someone can make on this tournament. You won it last year. Your second-round matchup is going to be against a BYU team that you looked dominant over for stretches of that game at Hilton, but you just weren't able to close it out. They don't call this. They're playing this in Kansas City. There's a ton of Iowa State fans. When they play Houston, they can score. They can get out. They love to run, which is crazy because this is what they did last year. They love to run. They've got shooting, and they're finally healthy again. I think Iowa State is the top 5 team in the country. And they're the 5 seed in the Big 12 tournament. I think they have the best chance of knocking off Houston, and then they're in the championship game. So I think getting 7-1 there, when they'll be favored over BYU, they'll be slight underdogs to Houston, but not huge underdogs. And it's essentially it's not a home game, but it's a semi-home game. You know, it's like Gonzaga playing in Seattle or something like that. Like it's a semi-home game. Like these Iowa State fans are nuts, and they flood to Kansas City. So I'm big on them. The way they defend, the amount that they have offensive pop now, and a little bit more depth. Love the way they play. BYU's been hooping. Deming, I just am so hot and cold on if I'm rocking with him or not, because there are times where you're just in love with him. Other times, like, you can't really hit a shot. He's not being aggressive enough, and he's turning it over. But Richie Saunders is a dog. They've got dudes. They've got depth. Young is starting to figure it out a bit more. Texas Tech, I could talk for forever about. Just a beautiful offensive team. You know, when you have the guard play that they have, and the fact that my first thing I said about them was guard play, when they have a big man on NBA Draft Boards who's ranked 4th on KenPom Player of the Year rankings, and JT Toppin, who can go for 30s, had multiple 40-point games, if I'm not mistaken, this year. The way that they are so connected on offense, they have such a clear identity. They have so much three-point shooting. They take a lot of threes. My boy Christian Anderson off the bench is this combo guard who can play alongside Hawkins, who's just as pure a point guard as he gets at 5'11". They got older guys, he's a senior, but Christian Anderson has been hitting his stride. He had 21 yesterday against Arizona State. Makes the right decision. When he's running a pick and pop with Darion Williams, or he's running a pick and roll with GT Toppin, he's so aggressive looking for a shot off the bounce. Like, he will get himself a good shot, and he can hit those shots. And guess what? If the defense is playing him in a way where it's a better idea to get that ball to Toppin, let him cook down low, or to swing it to Williams popping out for 3 where he can attack, he can do everything at 6'7", or you've got Chance McMillan, one of the best shooters in the country. You've got Kerwin Walton, who's somehow still playing college basketball. Kevin Overton, the Drake transfer, and then Federico from Pitt is a serviceable backup big who can come in and defend and rebound, finish above the rim. Texas Tech's got everything in their top 8, and this is a Grant McCaslin who got this job because of what he did defensively at North Texas. They're up to 27th defensively. They can beat teams like Iowa State and Houston because of their three-point shooting, being able to catch and shoot, to be able to take care of the ball and make good decisions. That's what you need to beat those elite defensive teams that want to be aggressive in ball screens. I'm super high on Texas Tech. I'll take a breath now. But I really like those two teams. I didn't even talk about Houston yet, but they've won 13 or 14 road games in a row. Like, that's just insane.
Dude, yeah, Houston's a wagon. I was just pulling this back up so viewers can see, like, the odds that we're talking about. We're saying the same thing because I have Iowa State there as my team too, because they're 5th in the league, but they're the 10th best team in KenPom. Like, their value is there plus 700. And if you wanted to, like, you know, you're unsure, I would say also the winner of Iowa State BYU. Like, BYU has an extra bye, but they're plus 1,100 on the futures. So it's like they play one less game than Iowa State will, but their value is plus 1,100. And so that is eye-opening to me. But I just think Iowa State is going to beat them on the rematch. I think Iowa State matches up better with Houston, and I think Iowa State can beat Houston, whether the game is 43-40 and it's a rock fight, or they get out and go. Like, that's what impresses me about Iowa State is they can get in the mud and throw rocks at you. Like a Houston can beat you, but Iowa State's kind of adapted that personality while being able to score the ball. And that is something that is dangerous. And so the plus 700, I like a lot too. And I want to give you a hypothetical here. I hate to say this because we don't need to address this team. They're the biggest disappointment in college basketball, but Baylor is frustrating for me as a college basketball guy. Like, you get Jeremy Roach, you get Norchad Omier from Miami. You have VJ Edgecombe. Like, you have dudes, and they've obviously not put it together at all this season. Is there a part of you that thinks, because there's a part of me that thinks this was going to piss me off that I'm even saying this, but Jeremy Roach and Omier know what it takes to win in March. They've both made deep runs at the previous stops. Is this now like a place where they just lock in? Like NC State last year, who, again, this is different, but they locked in as an underwhelming team all year and won the tournament, the AC tournament, and then made the trip to the Final Four. Is there anything that Baylor can do to win this conference tournament?
Guess how many minutes Jeremy Roach played last night?
I could not even tell you, to be honest. This is bad previewing on my part.
12.
Oh, God. Well,
Jeremy Roach to Baylor was one of the worst marriages of the portal offseason, because guess what? Rob Wright's better than him. Jaden Nunn's better than him. Langston Love's better than him. And VJ Edgecombe's better than him. What that team is asking is Norchad Omier to play 38 minutes and not get in foul trouble just like he did in Miami. And I don't think that's what he was looking for. And I understand the injury to Ojuana is something that wasn't part of the plan, but they haven't been able to find a way to, really get the small ball to work consistently against these good teams. VJ's fantastic. Like I said, Rob Wright, Langston Love, Celestine can, as 6'7", can play the 4 alongside Omier, but it's just not there. And Jaden Nunn's coming off. They got too many guards. And the Jeremy Roach money should have gone to someone else. And Jeremy Roach should have gone somewhere where a freshman guard wasn't coming in that was better than him, where he's the 5th best guard. Like, complete failure of evaluation on both sides. And as much as I love a lot of these players on Baylor, as much as I love Scott Drew, like, I don't believe in them at all. Maybe they can get hot and win a game in March Madness, but they haven't shown anything to me over the past month that they can actually get hot.
That's crazy. That's I did not even look at their box score last night. It was 12 minutes. That's nuts. But again, Shire had that team ranked 16th in the country defensively with Jeremy Roach as a defender who Duke fans know he is not a good defender. And he is a 2 guard that's 6'1". And so the fit just never worked. Duke made it work for the best they could, but it was never going to work at Baylor.
No, should have gone to, where Jeremy Roach should have gone?
Where? Wake Forest?
He would have been great. They could have used him. They could have really used him. I think he would be great alongside Salas, and Cameron Hildreth wouldn't have to be the second best player.
You got to pay though. NIL, that's what I think he got over $1 million at Baylor, and I don't
Which is nuts. Correct. He's their 5th best guard.
Correct. I mean, it's like buying a bad crypto coin now, just a meme coin, and it just tanks immediately. I mean, literally that's what it was. The first game of the year was against Gonzaga. They lost by 40 points. All right, well, this was a terrible investment for this season. And so it immediately backfired. And look, I appreciate what he did at Duke for his 4 years, but I agree with you. It's never worth that money. He had his best year statistically on that Duke Elite 8 team. I think his shooting splits were something absurd, like almost 50-40-90 or 50-40-85, something crazy. But that was the peak. And Duke did a good job moving on to find better needs or fill better holes. And just it hasn't worked out at Baylor. So, yeah, I wanted to throw that wrinkle in without knowing that he only played 12 minutes. So, do not take Baylor plus 5,000. That's the key to this Big 12 tournament conference tournament talk is do not take Baylor plus 5,000. But Christian, would you agree with me? It would be, if you want the future, it would be Iowa State plus 700.
I'm going to bet Iowa State plus 700. It's the one conference tournament bet that I'm going to place today. I might talk myself into another one as the show goes along. I will say everything I just said about Caleb Love. Arizona can 100% win the Big 12 tournament. They've got a decent path. I think the team we have to talk about, though, is Kansas, because Kansas gets a nice win at home on senior day. Vibes have been bad. Bill Self released a statement. I don't know if it was just because of the Zeke Mayo go kill yourself from the biggest losers of all time, by the way. If you DM an athlete because you lost a bet, you're the biggest loser of all time, or if it's just they beat your team, in my opinion. Hunter Dickinson, as frustrating as he is, like he's still a dude that can go for 30 and 15 and like be a guy that you really don't have an answer for. And people want to hate on Dwan Harris as well as they can. Like he's a champion. He's a point guard that can really make a lot of things happen. Zeke Mayo's been hooping. I love Rylan Griffin. I always have, and he hasn't really panned out, but he's still a dude that can hit 6-7 threes in a game. But Dunga off the bench is an NBA player. Coit can get hot. AJ Storr, I don't even need to mention him because he's a non-factor. And if I was Bill Self, I wouldn't even play him. But Kansas turning it up at Big 12 tournament would not surprise me. I think Kansas at 13-1 is a decent bet. You've got Arizona and Texas Tech as your likely path before a championship game, which is, good teams, but no teams that Kansas isn't arguably better than. I give me Texas Tech over them, and Arizona's been more consistent, but like Kansas is the number 8 defense, and offensively, like I just went through their personnel and the fact they have Dickinson, like you can't count them out unless you just think the chemistry is like off right now. But my read of how they played on senior day, the emotions of Harris, Adams, and Dickinson all together, like I think the chemistry isn't that bad. I think you can't write off Kansas. We've never seen Bill Self in Kansas like in this role, or at least I never have. Maybe it was before I was figuring out what was going on in college basketball, but they're always a 1 seed or 2 seed. In the years that they're a 4 seed, they're like pretty awful. So like this year they're going to be a 6, but like better than those 4 seed teams. So can't knock off Kansas either.
You drive a hard bargain. I'm very easy to be persuaded, and you just persuaded me to think about this because look, me back in Hunter Dickinson, if you follow me on Twitter, it's not like I'm the biggest fan of Hunter Dickinson. He is like my Caleb Love to another extent. And the AJ Storr is a good point. I talked about Jeremy Roach being a bad investment. He's even worse. Yeah. He is a shit coin. That was just terrible investment with him.
And remember, they were going to have Riley Kugel too. And then Riley Kugel was like, there's too many dudes. But like AJ, they just didn't need AJ Storr unless he was going to be their best player. And he's not even close to their best player.
No, it was like a pissing contest, and they just wanted to show that they could get him. They could just get him to get him. Like the Yankees.
This is the most expensive guy. We'll get him. We can.
And that backfired. And look, the 6th seed, and you're right. Like Bill Self and them have never been in this predicament. But I think giving him this path, I like Kansas against Arizona in that matchup because of the guys they have. I think they have found something a little bit the last week, and I think when they go into the Texas Tech game, and who we think is going to be Texas Tech, Kansas to at least semis to the championship at plus 1,300. Oh my God, Christian, you're going to make me have to add this to the card here. So I will also go ahead, but I'm taking it. I am going to take it.
I had 3 conference tournament futures last year. It was St. John's plus like 1,600. They almost knocked off UConn, and they would have been in the championship game if they did. So I'm going to count that as a good bet. I don't judge my bets just based on if they won or lost. My other one was Florida, Florida was big odds, maybe 20-1. They made the finals. Micah Hancock's leg snapped, and then Auburn ran him off the floor. But a great bet, in my opinion. BYU, and they got smoked by it might have been UC. They might have came back and beat UCF and then lost to Texas Tech in the second round is what happened. So I was 2 for 3 of having at least value hunting. In my value hunting senses, my antenna are going off for Kansas and Iowa State.
Okay, I will add that to the card for a future. It's Kansas plus 1,300 because, like you said, like their path, dude, is appealing to me. That is Arizona and Texas Tech.
Kansas City's not far. I said it's Ames South, but Kansas City's not far from Kansas.
I mean, it'd be great. And the beautiful thing about our futures bet for the Big 12 here is they're on opposite ends of the bracket. So it's like you take Iowa State plus 700, you take Kansas plus 1,300. They play in the championship, making some money. So that's the best case that we could have right now. Pull for Iowa State at plus 700 and Kansas plus 1,300. And again, that can happen. That can happen in the Big 12.